From Flummoxed 2. It is interesting to see what South Africans who actually lived under the apartheid system have to say about Israel's treatment of the Palestinians. Quote, but what is interesting is that every black South African that I've spoken to who has visited the Palestinian territory has been horrified and has said without hesitation that the system that applies in Palestine is worse. Professor John Duggard, former UN special reporter, whatever, misspelled, whatever it is, on human rights in occupied Palestine. Well, first of all, there is no such thing as Palestine. There's never been a Palestine in history. There's nothing occupied about it. The only thing that's occupied are the areas which Arabs control. The areas that the Muslims and the Arabs control is illegally occupied because those areas belong to the Jewish people. The entire land of Israel, from the Nile to the Euphrates, belongs to the Jewish people because the God of the universe who created this world gave those lands as an eternal covenant and an eternal inheritance to the Jewish people forever and ever, not to the cursed Muslim Nazis that hate anyone who's not a Muslim. And as far as how things are so terrible for the Arabs living in the land of Israel, you think things are so terrible? No problem. No problem. We will be happy. They think South Africa's better? I mean, you're saying here South Africa's better. No problem. They can all go to South Africa. We'll be happy to assist them in going to South Africa. If we take power, we will be very happy to move them to South Africa, where they can join the wonderful South African population, where 1/3 of the males in South Africa have AIDS. And now we go to. I'm sure they'll have a great time over there, the Arabs. And you know, since things are better over there, why shouldn't they want to go? Why shouldn't they want to go? And now we go to Optimists RUS, who writes, and I quote, "The problem is that the Jews didn't fight the Nazis. They weren't allowed to come to Europe and U.S., so they went to Palestine and started massacring the natives who had committed no crime against the Jews. 531 villages destroyed, 800,000 natives ethnically cleansed from Palestine, 80% land occupied and named Israel, the rest occupied in 1967, unquote. Actually, Israel is only about 6 or 7% of the land that the Jews are supposed to have. Okay, we only have about 6 or 7%. 93 or 94% of the land of Israel is still in the hands of the Arabs. Israel is a tiny little pipsqueak country. And you are saying here that the Jews shouldn't even have this one tiny little speck of a country. 66 Muslim Nazi countries exist, with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times the land that the Jews have, and most of the world's oil reserves. The Muslims can have 66 giant countries, but the Jews can't even have one puny little country. They don't have a right to even that. You know who speaks like that? Muslim Nazis. And you are a Nazi. You who would deny the Jewish people any existence or any national rights or any sovereignty, you are a Nazi. You you're calling for the annihilation of Israel and the destruction of the one tiny little Jewish homeland because you believe that the Arab Muslim Nazis should control everything. Everything down to the last inch, which is what the Arab Muslim... And by the way, if you notice, look at all the comments by Flummoxed and Optimists and all these other comments. They all are openly saying that Israel should be completely destroyed. There's no talk about borders. You know, those people live in the illusion that it's a border conflict. This is not a conflict of borders. This is a conflict between those who believe the Jews have a right to exist and those who want to literally exterminate the Jewish people. That is what these enemies of Israel really are seeking. And it's about time Jews woke up and faced that and understood that that is the real issue here. And now we have a comment from Lay the Groundwork, who writes, and I quote, "The Jews actually store most of their incredible wealth in the Far East, while they also control about 65% of all the wealth in the West. The whole reason behind the 1948 theft of Palestine was to create the connector of the Jewish riches that are stored in the East and the West. When the Jews seized Palestine, it signified Jewish control of the entire planet, since their financial network could no longer be divided. Hitler was the lone genius who tried to save the world but was not able," unquote. Oh, Hitler was a genius. He said that the Jews are Untermenschen, that they are the inferior race. But you're saying this tiny people, the Jewish people, control the whole world. The whole world they control. If they control the whole world and all the wealth of the whole world, then you are the Untermensch. then you are the inferior race, and the Jews are the master race, way beyond anything that Hitler ever spoke about. The Jews are so superior and so vastly ahead of you, if this is true. If what you're saying is true, that the Jews control the whole, that this tiny people controls the whole world and all the wealth of the world, that means the Jews are so vastly superior to you, you should get down and bow and worship them. I mean, this is just, you know, it. And notice, by the way, this individual is praising Hitler, calling him a genius and saying what he did was good. Every Jew should understand what's going on here. Every Jew and every righteous Gentile should understand what's going on here. All three of these comments are from people who want nothing less than complete genocide and complete Holocaust against the Jewish people. That is what our enemies want. That is what we're fighting against. Nothing less. And any Jew, including the Israeli government and the Israeli news media and the Israeli organizations and the American Jewish organizations, the American Jewish establishment, all of them are appeasing and capitulating and surrendering to those who literally want total extermination against the Jewish people. JTF is the one movement and the one force that stands against this and that tells the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Nothing less is what is necessary if we are to survive.
La